Ahsoka Tano might have the most unique lightsabers in Star Wars canon. Alright, maybe aside from the darksaber, but she is the one Force user we see whose lightsaber blades are completely white and colorless. But why are they white? How come she ditched her green and blue lightsabers? How did she get the white ones? What do they represent? Well, with her Star Wars series less than 2 weeks away, we felt it was the perfect time to answer these questions and catch you up. Let's dive in. Now, before we get to Ahsoka's white lightsabers, let's backtrack and do a quick recap regarding her previous blades. Ahsoka, just as every Jedi youngling, at some point traveled to the ice planet Ilum to acquire a kyber crystal and construct her first lightsaber during the process known as the Gathering. Feeling the crystals through the Force, albeit without knowing that was what she sensed, as soon as the Jedi starship came out of hyperspace, she entered into the temple's cave after Grandmaster Yoda told her she would know her crystal when she found it. As the opening to the cave slowly closed as the sun of Asar set, she urgently looked for her crystal until she calmed herself, thinking back on Yoda's words, and only then seeing its light. Excited and ready to leave, she quickly made her way out of the cave with the tool for which she could build her own lightsaber. From there, she would construct said lightsaber using the kyber crystal under the tutelage of Jedi architect droid Huyang, who fussed over her shoulder as she worked on it. Ahsoka's first lightsaber had a relatively basic cylindrical silver hilt with some black ornamentation. When ignited, it had a green blade. The young Jedi would continue to use this lightsaber as she became Anakin Skywalker's Padawan and began to fight alongside Rex and the 501st during the Clone Wars. Ahsoka utilized the fifth form of lightsaber combat, specifically the practice known as Xian, which favored the use of a less conventional reverse lightsaber grip. Later in the Clone Wars, and at some point prior to the mission to Mortis, the Jedi Padawan adopted the practice of Jar Kai and constructed a Shoto lightsaber to this end. Shoto lightsabers were scaled lightsabers whose blades were considerably shorter than normal. They were used by shorter combatants like Yoda, Yaddle, or Evan Peel, whose stature made it impractical to wield a full-size lightsaber. But they were also used as offhand weapons for duelists who employed twin-bladed techniques as part of Jar Kai. Ahsoka's Shoto lightsaber was essentially a shrunken version of her original lightsaber and mimicked its basic aesthetic, save for the shorter blade, which also had more of a yellow-green color than her main weapon. Ahsoka used these two lightsabers up until the bombing of the Jedi Temple, for which she was framed and expelled from the Jedi Order. After clearing her name, she decided not to return and thus gave up her green lightsabers. As we now move towards the end of the Clone Wars, things begin to get a bit complicated. When the Clone Wars TV show was originally cancelled by Disney, a canon Ahsoka novel was released by E.K. Johnston as a way to wrap up her story prior to Rebels. However, since its release in 2016, the novel has been heavily retconned by both Clone Wars Season 7 and Tales of the Jedi. We'll do our best to navigate both the novel and the shows. While her lightsabers were in the custody of the Jedi, Anakin Skywalker took care of them, taking the opportunity to, as he saw, improve them, the blades changing color to blue as a result. Clone Wars creator Dave Filoni explained Anakin changing Ahsoka's lightsabers to blue. He explained that Anakin tinkering with her lightsabers while she was gone shows that he was always thinking of her. The lightsabers are then a representation of her in the story and his thoughtfulness regarding her. His changing the color from green to blue can also be seen as him exerting control or being too protective, which, as Dave Filoni put, is very Anakin. He means well, but often takes things too far when trying to express how he feels. Changing the lightsabers, modifying them, improving them shows his care, but also his ego, something that Ahsoka is all too familiar with. Ahsoka used her blue lightsabers for a very short time during the Siege of Mandalore and up until Order 66. After surviving the Great Jedi Purge and helping Rex to remove his inhibitor chip, she would abandon these lightsabers at the crash site of the Jedi Cruiser Tribunal for 2 reasons. First of all, in order to fake her own death in the eyes of the Empire. Secondly, she was leaving her last connection to both the Jedi and the Clone Wars behind, entering an important new chapter in her life. Sometime later, Darth Vader visited the Tribunal crash site, now buried in snow. In the wreckage, he found his former apprentice's lightsaber, heavily corroded but still working, which he took with him as he left. This is one of the last times we get any glimpse of Anakin Skywalker within Vader up until his redemption. Now, on to how Ahsoka got her white lightsabers. As previously mentioned, this story was told in the Ahsoka novel, which heavily inspired much of one of her episodes in Tales of the Jedi. After surviving Order 66 and leaving her lightsabers behind, Tano spent the next year in hiding on the planet Tabasca, working as a mechanic for the Fardi clan. After fleeing the planet on the first Empire Day, Tano, under the alias Ashla, wound up on the remote farming moon of Rada. For a long time in Star Wars lore, the term Ashla has been used to refer to the light side of the Force. In the old Legends continuity, the predecessors of the Jedi Order, referred to the two sides of the Force as the Ashla, or light side, and Bogon, dark side. It could also be seen as a tribute to Ahsoka's longtime voice actress, Ashley Eckstein. Ahsoka befriended various locals, including two sisters, Kaden and Mira Lart, likely inspirations for the Martez sisters in the Clone Wars. Tano then began to collect various mechanical bits and pieces, not quite sure why she was doing so yet. After the Empire arrived on Rada, Ahsoka began to organize a resistance, but was forced to leave with her friends in hiding after exposing herself as a Force user to rescue them from a botched plot cooked up by the former Hobden behind Tano's back. Tano returned to Tabasca briefly, but was eventually contacted by agents of Senator Bail Organa, who had noticed a pattern of good deeds being done in the area and suspected a former Jedi might be there and sought to recruit her for his burgeoning rebellion. After joining Organa and learning that a Force-using agent of the Empire, an Inquisitor called the Sixth Brother, had been sent to Rada and was holding Kaden hostage, Tano decided to build herself new lightsabers in earnest, having already realized what the components she had been collecting would fit together to make. Needing new kyber crystals, Ahsoka once again traveled to the sacred planet of Ilum. However, she found that the Empire had begun strip mining the planet, as they'd use its plentiful kyber crystals for the Death Star's super laser, and Ilum would eventually become Starkiller Base by the time of the First Order. Meditating into the Force to look for where she might find new crystals, Tano heard a song that pointed her back to Rada. Having arranged for Organa to send aid to evacuate the moon's population, Tano returned there, finding Miara, who had been in hiding after the Inquisitor had attacked the caves where she, her sister, and the surviving friends had been sheltering. Tano followed the Song of the Crystals to a confrontation with the Sixth Brother. Again, this seems to have inspired her duel with an unnamed Inquisitor in Tales of the Jedi. Despite being unarmed, Tano easily defeated the unprepared Inquisitor, killing him by accident when she pulled on the crystals in his double-bladed spinning lightsaber with the Force and caused the weapon to explode. Tano took the lightsaber crystals housed within the deceased Inquisitor's lightsaber, which had been calling out to her. She noted that the crystal had been turned red through the practice known as bleeding, wherein a dark side user pours all of their hatred into a kyber crystal and turns it a crimson red. Realizing that the crystals were meant to be hers, she purified them back to the light side of the Force, the process turning the crystals a pure white. Tano then assembled herself 2 new lightsabers from the components she had collected, as well as the specialized crystal mountings from the Inquisitor's lightsaber. She noted that the hilts were rather rough, but had no time to make them more functional. Assisting in the evacuation of Rada, Tano leapt into battle with her new weapons, rescuing Kaden from where she had been imprisoned and covering the locals' retreat into the evacuation ships sent by Organa. Afterwards, during a mission on the Tantive, Tano showed the Senator her new weapons before agreeing to take up the position of Fulcrum in order to improve the rebels' communications. Over the years that followed, Tano rebuilt the lightsaber's hilts to make them more functional and decorative, with new curved hilts in her recently acquired white blades. She would continue to use these lightsabers as she worked alongside the Spectre Rebel Cell to face off with the Inquisitors and even Darth Vader himself. Ahsoka even still has these same lightsabers now, at the time of The Mandalorian and her soon-to-be-released spin-off show. In one of our recent videos, we discussed the meaning of every lightsaber color in canon. As a little added bonus, did you know that white lightsabers were said to represent purity, redemption, and the ability to overcome the dark side? A perfect fit for one of the greatest Jedi and light side users of all time. But what do you think of Ahsoka's white lightsabers and how she got them? Which of her 3 lightsaber blade colors is your favorite? And what are you hoping to see in the upcoming Ahsoka series? Maybe we'll even get a flashback of her creating her white lightsabers. Sound off in the comments below. Come join us to chat more at our community Discord server, linked in the description. If you enjoyed today's Star Wars video, we've got more on the screen for you right now. Also make sure to drop a like, and if you're new to the channel, hit subscribe to join the Red Squadron. Until next time, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you. Red 5, standing by.